Hello, SUNY Schenectady students, and welcome to Test Taking and Test Anxiety presented by the Student Success Center. So before we get started here, I want to talk a little bit about what our role is on campus. We help students achieve academic excellence via one-on-one academic coaching. We cover topics such as test taking and test anxiety, getting organized, study skills, goal setting, communicating effectively and efficiently with your professors and your peers. All of these different skills that play a role in student success. And in addition to that, as we all know, life can get in the way, making academic excellence hard to achieve. You know, things like transportation or childcare, food insecurity, all of these different things that can be barriers to success. And as a result, we have a great familiarity with the different resources on campus, so we know where to send students depending on their situation. Each student has a success coach, and it is divided up by division. We accept walk-ins and appointments, so if you're unsure as to who your coach is, please feel free to stop by Elston Hall, room 017. We are right across from the main cafeteria. Or you can call our general line 518-381-1434, and we can connect you with your coach. So this is our agenda for the presentation. So what is anxiety, causes of test anxiety, dealing effectively with test anxiety, applying your learning style to test prep, and the 5-day test prep plan. So normally we would watch this test anxiety video together, but because this is in a video format, we are not going to do that. However, if you take a look below, I have pasted the link in the description, so feel free to watch the video on your own time. So what is anxiety? And I am not a licensed mental health counselor or a licensed doctor. So I'm talking about, specifically in the context of test taking. So what symptoms of anxiety have you experienced prior to a test? So upset stomach, headache, sweaty palms, memory lapse or a mental block, low self-esteem, apprehension, frequent yawning, and there are many other symptoms that you may experience prior to a test if you're feeling nervous. So I want to spend some time looking at the memory lapse, mental block bullet here, because this has happened to me a lot. Even if you walk into a test and you feel that you're prepared, you studied all night long and you studied, the days following up to the test, when you're really nervous or you're feeling a great deal of anxiety, sometimes it seems like your mind just completely shuts down and you forget everything that you've studied. So a way to combat this is to not cram the night before until 2 in the morning. What you really want to do is spread out your study time over the course of a number of days, and we'll look, deeper into this as we go along through the presentation. But I wanted to talk about this a little bit because it is something that I have experienced, and it can be extremely frustrating when you've prepared, but you can't access the information because of a mental block that you're experiencing as a result of your anxiety. So I want you to think a little bit about some of these symptoms. Ask yourself, have I experienced any of these symptoms? And if you can think of any other symptoms that are not listed here, feel free to comment below with some of those. So here are some causes of test anxiety, why you're feeling the symptoms in the first place. So perhaps it is past test taking experiences, so those tests that you have done poorly on, worrying about the test that you're about to take. Comparing yourself to others, will go back to that. Low expectations, poor study habits, that's a big one. Lack of studying and prep, and a fear of failure. So I want to spend a little bit of time on the comparing yourself to others bullet point. From my experiences taking a test, watching other students leave the class after 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and fearing that, oh, well, they know, the information so well that it only took them 10 to 20 minutes to finish, and here I am, on the second page. So them leaving early does not necessarily mean that they did well. It could very well mean that they had no idea what the answers were, so they kind of rushed through it and left. But my point is do not focus on other students in the classroom. Do not worry about how early they finish, how late they finish. Your only competition really should be yourself and the clock. So if you go to the second to the last bullet, lack of studying and preparation, this is huge. Preparation. You have to know the material so well that no matter how nervous you are and no matter how debilitating it feels, you know the information so well that you can navigate the test successfully despite your anxieties. Think about it. You could be so incredibly nervous, like debilitatingly nervous, and if someone asks you, what color is the sky, you're going to be able to say blue because you know that so well. And that's how you have to look at test prep. These answers, this knowledge, it has to become second nature almost. So letting go of test anxiety, the mental side of things. So dealing with negative thoughts, yelling stop mentally, of course, in your head. And it doesn't have to be stop. It can be positive thoughts that you recite to yourself over and over until you believe them. Daydream and visualize success. So this has a lot to do with your perspective and your attitude. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of growth versus fixed mindset, but having a fixed mindset is along the lines of, I'm not good at math, I'll never be good at math, and because I'm so bad at math, I'm going to fail this test. That's a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is, yes, while math is not my strongest subject, with the right resources, the right amount of time spent on the subject, with the right amount of help, I can get better at math. And it's going to be a step-by-step process, but I believe in the possibility of growth. So that's a perspective, attitude thing. And if you want to know more about fixed and growth mindset, please check below. I will include a link to a video about growth versus fixed mindset. And acknowledge your strengths. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That's cut off there, but it should say hope for the best. So this slide, really is just about your perspective and your attitude, and also your self-efficacy. So, believing that you can accomplish greatness based on your past experiences and based on the skill sets that you've acquired thus far. So letting go of test anxiety, the physical side of things. So breathe. We often forget to breathe when we are under pressure. This helps our body calm down physically, and it's so important to keep that in mind during times that are stressful. And mindfulness meditation. So you don't have to be, on a yoga mat alone to meditate. You can take 2 minutes with your eyes closed, focusing on your breathing before a test. This is an example of meditation. Tense and relax. So purposefully tense up your body and consciously relax and repeat that cycle prior to the test. Use guided imagery, be present, exercise. This is a big one, and not just exercise, right before the test, but try to make it a part of your daily living. I cannot tell you how big of a difference it makes for me. The physical outcomes are really a bonus in comparison to the mental benefits. Get enough sleep. This is huge. So like I said before, it's not wise to cram until 2 in the morning the night before, but instead, get 8 hours of sleep. Be fully rested. This can really help mitigate anxiety symptoms. And of course, seek help when you need it. And, try to be proactive versus reactive. If you know that math isn't your strongest subject and it's the beginning of the semester, seek help right away. Get a tutor right away, right? So you can combat these hurdles head on with the help of someone else. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Like I talked about, you want to know the material so well that despite the anxieties you're feeling, despite your environment, despite all of these factors that can influence your test-taking performance, it doesn't matter. You're still going to do well because you know the material so well, and you have to walk into the test with that confidence, that self-efficacy, and that preparation, that level of preparation is so integral. So this is the 5-day test prep program. In short, this is a system in which you take the 5 days before your test and systematically and methodically and in a very organized way plan out your study schedule. So you're going to isolate areas of concern. What does that mean? So the areas in which you feel that you are struggling, that maybe you feel that you could improve in. Decide which study tools are right for you. So if it's a vocabulary-driven course like psychology, you're going to want to have flashcards maybe, things of that nature. You want to decide how you're going to tackle studying for your upcoming test and the tools you're going to need to do that. So day 5. So this is the first day of your test prep. So you're going to choose which strategies you can use for improved concentration, comprehension, and recall, right? So you're going to want to revisit past materials. So homework and quizzes from a few weeks prior, those are going to most likely contain information that's going to be on the test. You can also self-test yourself on chapter summaries or on lecture notes. And if you look at the bottom of the slide, you'll see recite aloud. So read a paragraph or page out loud. It is amazing what this does for retention. And predict possible test questions in each review, right? And then write these down and quiz yourself. And this can be done via flashcards, in a notebook, whatever works for you. Day 4. So you're going to really focus on the difficult problem areas, like we talked about, those areas that you're struggling in. And if you can't say it, you don't know it. And what this means is you really don't know something unless you're able to explain it to someone else. And this is something that I have learned as a tutor, as an educator. If you cannot explain a concept to someone else, then you really don't know it. So take advantage of your peers, take advantage of your family members, anyone in your life who is willing to help you out, and explain concepts to them and see how well you can do that. And of course, if you're still having problems, get help from your professor, your tutor, or a classmate prior to the test. So I think this is a pretty funny image. So 3 days before the test, you're going to study all of the remaining easier material, so the material that you feel good about. And you're going to use recitation for thorough understanding and retention. So, right, study out loud, say things to yourself out loud, and also seek help from those around you who, you can explain concepts and ideas to. And day 2. So 2 days before the test, you're going to study all of the material from beginning to end as if the test were the next day. So this is your heavy study day. You're going to spend a great deal of time studying on this day, and to avoid burnout, right, because that's not what we want, you can check out our time management video that is posted on YouTube, and it talks a little bit about the Pomodoro technique, which in short, is a way to help you when you are marathon studying, right? And you feel that burnout. It's a method that allows you to take quick breaks so you don't feel overwhelmed at any point. So I encourage you to check out that video. I'll actually paste the link in the description, and you can be directed right there. Also, if you are, preparing for a history exam, let's say, you might have an essay portion, right? And typically you don't know what the essay questions are going to be. So come up with about 10 possible essay questions and use your notes, use your best judgment. You have the materials to, effectively predict what the questions may be, and outline a brief answer to each one of those questions that you come up with. And day 1, so 1 day before the test, review briefly and get a good night's sleep. So day 2 is the day, like we talked about, that you're going to be quote unquote marathon studying, right? It's going to be a full day of studying. So day 1 is a day to relax. I mean, you're going to go over your notes briefly and kind of refresh your memory, but this is not the day to cram. What's most important on this day is that you sleep. You get 8 hours of sleep. So here is an example of a 5-day test prep program. You can screenshot this, so you have it. But this is what it should look like. This is what your plan should look like. And it's really smart to create something like this because it holds you accountable, right? And you have something to reference throughout this process. So 1, it doesn't seem so insurmountable, and then 2, so you can stay organized and on target. During the test, so it's the day of the test, you have 8 hours of sleep under your belt, and you're going to arrive a little bit early So you can take a moment to breathe, or you can take a moment to meditate. You can take a moment to go over your notes, whatever it is. The point is that you don't want to arrive at the test in a frantic state because you are late. That's setting you up for failure right away, and it's adding a lot of unnecessary anxiety. So if allowed, if you can use a scrap piece of paper, I know that some professors allow you to use one index card or maybe a full sheet of paper, scratch down the things that are going to be helpful during the test. So we have talked about math a lot in this presentation, so let's stay with that theme. So yeah, formulas, things like that, that will help you be successful. And read and reread the directions. This is really important because it's a huge bummer when you actually know the answer to something, but you get it wrong because you misread the directions. So you're always wanting, to take a test in a very thoughtful, careful way. So read through the test and answer the easiest and shortest questions first. So you're going to want to go through and knock out the ones that you know for sure. Always keep in mind to watch the clock. I wouldn't recommend fixating on the clock, but it is a factor. So you're going to want to pay attention to that. And if you can't answer a question, move on and come back later. We have all learned this the hard way, right? We spend so much time on a question that we are struggling with because it's on the tip of our tongues and we just want to get it right, and we end up spending way too much time on it. So skip it and come back. Multiple choice questions. So before you even look at the choices, answer the question in your head first. So ignore the options until you do a mental check for what you know the answer to be. So this happens a lot, right? We know the answer to something, but then we look at the choices and it starts influencing, our thought process. It starts influencing and questioning, what we already know. So this is a great strategy to combat this. You're going to read all possible answers before selecting one. Many times teachers will have a couple of right answers, right? And then let's say option D is all of the above, right? So if you don't read all of the options, you could end up getting it wrong if D is really the right choice, right? The all of the above option. And, process of elimination, eliminate all of the obviously, incorrect answers. True, false question. So you're going to read the entire question. As always, this doesn't just pertain to true or false questions. This pertains to every type of question. Look for qualifiers, so all, most, sometimes, rarely. Check the details carefully. Always do this, and watch for negatives. So negatives, that's like what is not the best answer, right? And usually the negatives are bolded and underlined, hopefully. But it's really important to look out for those because that can totally change the nature of the question. And short answer questions, concentrate on keywords and facts, and be brief. Try not to rant unnecessarily and get to the point as best you can. So open book tests, these are nice, right? So you want to organize your notes, readings, other materials. If you are entering into a math test, write down the formulas on a separate piece of paper. Bookmark table of contents, or create a table of contents or index for notes taken in your class. And as always, predict possible items covered on the test. So after the test, you're going to want to spend some time reflecting on your performance. So how do you feel that it went? How effective were your strategies? And do you feel that you accurately predicted the questions that would be on the exam? And follow up and writing down your intentions for how you plan to study for the next test. So what did you feel worked? What did you feel didn't work? And these questions are going to be easier to answer once you actually get your test back. So when the test is returned, um, reflect. Reflect. So what material did the instructor use to base the test questions? So notice their patterns, right? Try to predict what they may do on their next test based on what they did on this past test, what types of questions were asked on the test, what ones did you miss, and why? Was it a lack of preparation? Was it not paying attention to detail? Was it misreading the question? What was it? What the goal is here is to identify what your strengths are, in the context of test taking, and more importantly, what your weaknesses are, right? It could be carelessness. It could be that you rushed through it and you made silly mistakes, or it could be that you just simply weren't fully prepared, to take the test. So what can you learn from the instructor's comments to help you prepare for the next test? And I always recommend meeting with your instructor after the test if you are not fully happy with your grade. Professors really appreciate transparency. They appreciate you going to visit them in their office hours. All of these small efforts make huge differences. So always be as communicative as possible with your professors, with your tutors, your peers, all of these different people who can help you be successful. So unfortunately, we can't have a session for questions because this is a video format. But if you have questions, please comment below and we will get back to you. And thank you for watching. We appreciate feedback, so please feel free to leave your feedback maybe in the comment section, or you can send us an email at studentsuccess@sunysccc.edu with your feedback. And we look forward to seeing you at the Student Success Center in Elston 017. Thanks.